$39 billion on budget night without any talk of offset.
Greater than $300 billion.
$1,000 more in petrol, $800 more in childcare, $2,000 more in rent.
It is a $2.1 trillion economy. That's right, 12 zeros.
Last week, $1.80.
Election campaigns are a rare combination of being bludgeoned relentlessly with numbers that probably don't mean all that much to you, and an escalated political savagery. They are also not for the faint-hearted. The shift in intensity of the way gaffes are perceived once a campaign has started is easy to illustrate.
What's the national unemployment rate?
National unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4, sorry, I'm not sure what it is.
The reaction to what was, by any assessment, an appalling political lapse was predictably savage. And that was on top of not knowing the official cash rate. Being in campaign mode, this was framed both as a reflection of Mr Albanese's unfitness for office and possibly the beginning and end of his election campaign.
Do you concede that you've got less chance of winning the election today than 2 days ago?
Can you understand the criticism that you may have lost all credibility on these issues now?
Can you promise Australians that you are across the details of the economy?
I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I've owned it. I wish it hadn't happened.
Sure, he didn't know the number, but he didn't miss it by that much. He missed it by that much.
But let's compare yesterday's gaffe in the white-hot heat of the first day of an election campaign with another event a couple of months ago when the PM was asked about the price of milk, petrol and rapid antigen tests.
Well, let me talk to you about a couple of things on that point.
A full 2 minutes later, he conceded.
Now, I'm not going to pretend to you that I go out each day and I buy a loaf of bread and I buy a litre of milk. I'm not going to pretend to you that I do that.
The story ran for 24 hours as an illustration that Mr Morrison was out of touch. Back then, of course, almost all the focus of the media's attention was on the Prime Minister and the government, as it tends to be between election campaigns. Now Anthony Albanese is being exposed to a sudden onslaught of attention. And it has not been a great way to start a campaign, particularly for a leader who is not well known to voters, talking on a subject that slots neatly into the government's argument that he is inexperienced, and into its economic story.
He thought unemployment had a 5 in front of it, not even a 4 in front of it. And it's going to a number with a 3 in front of it.
The government capitalised today on Albanese's slip by promising to create 1.3 million jobs in the next 4 years. That's roughly in line with what you would expect based on the budget forecasts. And it is also just an update on previous forecasts made in the December budget update of 1 million jobs based on a post-COVID economic bounce back. They are the jobs underpinning the current unemployment rate, which Anthony Albanese couldn't nominate, and further improvements to come. But the opposition leader had at least received some support yesterday from a perhaps unexpected quarter.
Is that a serious question?
Yeah, Anthony Albanese didn't know the unemployment rate.
Yeah, well, I'm not, OK, well, Anthony Albanese didn't know the unemployment, all right. So what?
And the former PM has some experience in such things. In the 1996 election, he was opposition leader. The centrepiece of his pitch and the party's campaign launch was a family tax package. The coverage had been positive, but the day after the launch, almost 4 weeks into the campaign, was another matter.
A series of stumbles today stalled opposition leader John Howard's campaign.
Once your family income is over $70,000 a year, you do not get the benefit of the increase in the tax threshold.
But that's not what the newspapers were saying this morning.
In the footage of the interview, the hand of Howard's press secretary can be seen slipping him the details of his own policy.
I bet you're going to give the fellow who found that press clipping a rise, eh?
Well, he's a very good worker.
He didn't even know the policies himself, and I don't know how he expects anyone else to know them if he doesn't.
But the 1996 election turned out to be a referendum on an ageing Labor government. John Howard won. And sympathy among opposition leaders only goes so far, it seems. By today, Howard was singing a different tune about Mr Albanese's lapse.
He should have known that figure. Let's not muck about. Should have. Anybody who wants to be Prime Minister should be on top of those figures.
Anthony Albanese has 2 jobs to do in this campaign: make a positive case for being elected, but also ruthlessly remind people of why the polls show the PM and his government are so unpopular. Justice Scott Morrison is ruthlessly going after the opposition leader. Maybe having to do both jobs is why Mr Albanese and his frontbench seem not to have quite unleashed the political mongrel needed in a campaign.
Sledging me, making criticisms of me, seeking to attack me over these last 3 years, that's not a substitute for having an economic plan. It's not a substitute for knowing the things you need to know about what's going on in the Australian economy. Today,
Scott Morrison says he doesn't want the election to be a referendum. That is, just a judgment on his government, but for voters to make a choice. There are 6 long weeks before they have to make one.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.